The sun is sinking fast, painting the sky in deep orange and fading gold. It feels calm, almost peaceful, yet something in the air says the opposite. Something is ending. Something heavy. In the world of Landman, a sunset is never just a sunset. It is a warning, a turning point, a moment when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And in this story, where men chase fortune beneath the dirt and steel of the oil fields, the sunset marks a shift that no one can escape. This is where the meaning of death and sunset begins, quiet, slow, and full of things left unsaid. The phrase death and sunset is simple, yet it carries a deep weight inside the world of Landman. It speaks about endings that are not just physical but emotional and personal. In the oil fields, every day ends the same way, the sun dropping behind the rigs, shadows stretching across the ground, and the land going silent for a moment. But in this story, that silence becomes something more. It becomes a space where characters face what they've been running from. The sunset stands as a symbol of time slipping away, reminding them that money, power, and ambition cannot stop the truth from arriving. It is the moment where the land feels bigger than the people working on it, almost as if it is watching them, judging them. Death in this title does not always mean someone is gone forever. Sometimes it means the death of a dream, a belief, or the idea of who someone used to be. Lives in the oil fields are built on risk of injury, risk of loss, and risk of losing oneself in the chase for success. So when the story brings these two words together, it is telling us that something important is closing its chapter. It may be a part of someone's past, a relationship, or even a hope they once had. This moment is not loud or explosive. It happens quietly, the same way the light fades at the end of the day. That quietness is powerful because it forces characters to face what they fear most, change. The land itself adds to this feeling. The wide sky, the dusty roads, the metal towers reaching upward, all of it holds years of struggle and sacrifice. People come to the oil fields to rewrite their future, to climb out of the life they had before. But the land does not make it easy. It pushes back, showing its strength through storms, rough weather, and the constant danger of the work. In the episode tied to this theme, the land almost becomes a character. It reflects the emotions of the people on it, tired, cracked, yet still holding something deep beneath the surface. When the sun hits the horizon, it creates a moment where everything slows down. That slowdown is where truth rises. This section of the story digs into the inner world of those who stand beneath that fading light. They carry secrets, regrets, and choices that follow them from day to day. The sunset forces them to see these things with clarity. The workers may be strong on the outside, tough enough to handle long shifts and dangerous tasks, but when the day ends, they must face the parts of themselves that strength cannot fix. And that is why the sunset holds such meaning. It is the hour when the mask falls away. Death and sunset is also a reminder that nothing stays the same. Change is constant, even when people fight against it. The oil industry itself is full of cycles, booms and crash, growth and collapse. The episode uses these cycles to show how characters are caught in their own loops. They rise and fall, succeed and fail, but the sun continues to set, no matter what they do. It becomes a symbol of time they cannot control. And in that loss of control, we find the heart of the story. The moment when a character must choose who they will become next. This is the deeper meaning behind the title. It is not just an ending, it is an emotional crossroads. A point where past and future collide. A moment that changes everything that comes after. The world of Landman is built on contradictions. It is a place where the ground holds both promise and danger, where success can rise overnight but can vanish just as quickly. In the middle of this world, people work long hours, often before sunrise and long after sunset, hoping to carve out a better life. Yet everything around them reminds them that the land has a will of its own. It can give, but it can also take. This tension shapes every choice, every relationship, and every moment of silence between characters. Nothing comes easy here, and the weight of the land settles on everyone who walks across it. Life in this environment does not slow down. The air feels heavy even on normal days, and every sound echoes the pressure of survival. Machines roar, metal clanks, and wind drags dust across the open fields. But underneath these loud moments, there's a quiet truth that every character feels. They are small compared to the world they are trying to control. This truth becomes even clearer in Death and Sunset, where the physical landscape mirrors the emotional storms brewing inside the characters. The land becomes a reflection of their struggles, dry, cracked, stubborn, and full of buried stories that no one wants to dig up. People who work in this world learn quickly that nothing stays the same. Wells run dry, storms hit without warning, and one mistake can cost a life. Because of this, the characters carry a constant sense of urgency. They don't have the luxury of calm or comfort. Every day, they must fight to keep what they have earned. This constant pressure builds a kind of invisible wall between them and the life they dream of. They want stability, but stability feels like a distant thing, something other people have. Here, the land decides the rhythm, not the humans. And this rhythm is harsh. In this harshness, relationships become both a lifeline and a weakness. People grow close because they need someone who understands the world they live in. But these bonds are fragile. A wrong choice, a broken promise, or a hidden truth can tear everything apart. The story uses this reality to show how the environment shapes not only what people do, but who they become. In Death and Sunset, the emotional tone grows heavier as the characters struggle to protect the people they care about while also protecting the future they want. They are torn between duty and desire, between loyalty and survival. The land also shapes their fears. Even the strongest character feels a quiet dread hidden behind the noise of work. They fear losing control. They fear losing their place. They fear that everything they have fought for will vanish. This fear is not loud, it sits deep inside them, showing itself in small ways. A pause mid-sentence, a distant stare, the way someone breathes a little faster at dusk. The sunset, in particular, triggers a kind of reflection they cannot avoid. When the sun drops low, it exposes the vulnerability they carry, but never speak about. The fading light becomes a reminder that the day is over, and whatever was left undone will echo into tomorrow. Death and Sunset builds its power from this tension between the land and the people on it. It shows how the environment shapes their ambitions, their mistakes, and their hopes. This world forces them to be strong, but it also forces them to confront the truth that strength alone is not enough. They need purpose. They need clarity. They need to understand what they are willing to let go of in order to move forward. And sometimes, the land pushes them to search for these answers at the exact moment they would rather look away. By exploring the world around them, the story reveals that survival is more than physical endurance. It is emotional endurance. It is the ability to face change even when change feels like a threat. It is learning to accept that some endings are necessary for new beginnings to appear. The land teaches them this lesson every day, whether they like it or not. And in this section of the narrative, the world of Landman stands not only as a backdrop, but as a silent force shaping everything that is yet to come. Every story grows from the people living inside it. And in Landman, the characters carry more weight on their shoulders than any machine in the oil field. They walk through their days with dust on their boots and pressure in their hearts, because the world around them demands more than physical strength. It demands sacrifice, resilience, and the ability to keep moving even when the road ahead feels uncertain. In Death and Sunset, this emotional weight becomes clearer than ever. The characters are forced to confront the parts of themselves they usually ignore, the memories they buried, the choices they regret, and the dreams they still cling to even when they pretend not to care. Some characters stand tall because they think strength means silence. They don't speak about their fears or their losses, believing that the less they say, the less the world can take from them. But silence is never empty. It is filled with things left unsaid, with feelings they push down until they grow too heavy to carry. These hidden thoughts become a second burden, one that does not show on their faces but lives deep inside their hearts. The story uses this inner struggle to show that emotional survival can be just as challenging as physical survival. Behind every brave action, there is a quieter moment of doubt that no one else sees, other characters move through the world with a fire inside them: ambition, desire, the need to prove something. They chase opportunity with a kind of hunger that comes from years of being told no. The oil field offers them a chance to rewrite their future, and they grab it with both hands. But the closer they get to success, the harder it becomes to see the cost of climbing so high. They risk losing the people who matter most. They risk losing themselves. Death and Sunset brings these conflicts into sharp focus by placing them at a crossroads: keep climbing or slow down long enough. Then there are those who feel stuck between who they were and who they want to be. They carry pieces of their past like old scars, some healed, some still tender. They may act tough, laugh loudly, or pretend they don't care, but deep down they feel the weight of every mistake. The episode highlights this uncertainty through subtle moments, like lingering glances, tired sighs, or the way someone holds their breath before making a decision. These characters are not just fighting the land or the work. They are fighting themselves. The sunset only shines brighter on their struggle, revealing the truth they have avoided for too long. Relationships twist and stretch under this emotional pressure. Some characters lean on each other because they are the only ones who understand the pain of the job. Others pull away, afraid that closeness will expose their vulnerabilities. Trust becomes currency. Loyalty becomes a test. And love, when it appears, is fragile, like a small flame in a strong wind. The story shows that every bond has a breaking point, and every break leaves a mark. In Death and Sunset, these marks become more visible. The choices characters make in this moment will change how they look at each other forever. Even the smallest character has a quiet, personal battle. The man who always keeps his head down. The woman who hides her exhaustion behind a steady voice. The worker who jokes too much because laughter is easier than truth. Each one carries a story, a fear, a longing that shapes their actions. And when the sun begins to fall, when the sky turns gold and shadows stretch long across the ground, those personal battles feel impossible to hide. The sunset becomes a mirror that shows them not who they want to be, but who they are right now. Death and Sunset uses these characters to paint a picture of the human cost behind every dream. It shows that strength is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. It shows that endings are not always tragic. Sometimes they are necessary for growth. And most importantly, it shows that every decision, no matter how small, shapes the future in ways they cannot yet imagine. The characters may not say it out loud, but they know the truth. The sun is setting on the world they once knew, and when the darkness settles, they must decide what part of themselves they are ready to let go of and what part they refuse to lose. In Landman, symbols do not whisper. They press themselves into the story with quiet force. They appear in the sky, on the ground, and in the small actions people repeat without thinking. Death and Sunset uses these symbols to deepen every emotion and reveal truths the characters are not ready to say out loud. The sunset, for example, is more than a daily event. It is a reminder that time cannot be stopped, no matter how tightly someone holds onto their hopes. When the sun lowers, it paints the horizon with colors that look peaceful. But inside those colors lies a message. Everything ends, everything changes, and nothing stays the same forever. This message becomes a quiet echo inside each character, especially those who have spent years pretending they are stronger than their pain. Another powerful symbol is the land itself. Dry soil, cracked earth, heavy dust, these things show the cost of survival. They represent the struggle to build a life in a place that gives as much as it takes. The land holds memories of storms, accidents, and victories. It holds footprints of workers who came searching for a future they were not sure they deserved. In Death and Sunset, the land becomes a mirror for the characters' emotional states. When they feel lost, the land looks endless. When they feel pressure, the land seems to close in. When they feel hope, the horizon stretches wide and bright. The land never speaks, but it understands every step they take across it. Light and shadow also carry meaning in this story. During the day, the harsh sunlight exposes everything: flaws, fears, tensions that no one wants to acknowledge. But at sunset, the light softens. The edges blur. The world looks fragile, almost gentle. This shift in lighting reflects the shift inside the characters. When the day is ending, their defenses drop. Their real emotions rise to the surface. They might look calm on the outside, but inside, something stirs. Some face regret. Some face relief. Some face a truth they have avoided for years. The sunset offers no protection. It simply shows things as they are. The rigs, tall and metallic, stand as symbols of ambition. They reach into the sky like hands trying to grab something just out of reach. They represent effort, sacrifice, and the hunger for a better life. But they also represent risk. Every structure that climbs upward casts a long shadow beneath it. Characters feel this shadow whether they admit it or not. The rigs remind them that ambition can lift them up or crush them. They remind them that success is never free. In Death and Sunset, the rigs seem to watch over the characters, silent but heavy with meaning, marking the line between who they are and who they want to be. Even small objects gain importance in this narrative. Gloves left on the ground, tools resting beside a worker's feet, a dusty car door that will not close properly. These items show the humanity behind the hard work. They tell stories of long shifts, tired bodies, and hands that never stop moving. The story places special value on simple moments, using them to show how much life happens between the big events. Someone might drop a glove without noticing. Someone might pause to breathe and look at the sky. Someone might tighten a screw a little harder than needed. These tiny actions reveal more about a character's heart than any speech could. The strongest symbol in Death and Sunset, however, is the sense of stillness that arrives just before darkness. It is the calm before the unknown. It is the breath a person takes before choosing a new path. This stillness carries a different message for every character. For one, it may feel like peace. For another, like fear. For another, like a second chance. The story leans into this stillness, letting it fill the air so that the audience can feel the same tension the characters feel. It is a space where decisions are made quietly, without announcement, and where futures begin to shift. Together, these symbols turn the episode into more than a moment in the storyline. They turn it into a reflection, a reminder that endings are not empty but full of meaning. That the land remembers. That time keeps moving. That people grow through silence as much as through struggle. Death and Sunset uses symbols not just to decorate the story but to deepen it, pulling viewers into an emotional landscape where everything, even the fading light, has something important to say.